Behind every great band is supposed to be a great manager protecting their interests. But some managers did the opposite. They stole, lied, and destroyed the very artists who trusted them. Today, 10 rock bands destroyed by their own managers. Some lost millions, some lost everything they owned, and 2 band members lost their lives. If you think your boss is bad, wait until you hear these stories. Number 1 is the most tragic of all. Number 10, The Move, Tony Secunda. The Move were Birmingham's answer to The Who, featuring future Electric Light Orchestra founders Roy Wood, Jeff Lynne, and Bev Bevan. Manager Tony Secunda made them stars through outrageous publicity stunts, smashing TVs on stage with axes, signing contracts on the back of a topless model. I see rainbows in the In September 1967, their single Flowers in the Rain became the first song ever played on BBC Radio 1. Then, Secunda destroyed them with one unauthorized stunt. Without consulting the band, he created promotional postcards showing Prime Minister Harold Wilson in bed with his secretary, Marcia Williams. Wilson sued for libel and won. The court ordered all royalties from Flowers in the Rain donated to charity forever. Roy Wood wrote the song. He never saw a penny. Neither did anyone else in the band. The ruling still stands today, over 55 years later. Estimated losses, millions of pounds. The Move fired Secunda immediately, but the damage was permanent. Wood later said the Harold Wilson lawsuit was one of the worst things that ever happened to the band. The Move had 3 more top 10 hits, but disbanded in 1972. Wood and Lynne formed ELO, finally achieving the success that should have been the Move's all along. Number 9, TLC, Perri, Pebbles, Reid. TLC's 1994 album, Crazy Sexy Cool, sold 14 million copies worldwide. It went diamond, 11 times platinum in America. The only album by a female group ever to achieve that. Waterfalls and Creep dominated MTV. TLC were the biggest girl group on earth. Then they filed for bankruptcy in July 1995. Total debt, $3.5 million. Despite selling millions of records, each member made $50,000 in 1993 and 1994 combined. Their manager Pebbles owned everything. She owned the name TLC through her management contract. She controlled their earnings through her production company Pebbatoni. The band discovered they'd signed contracts without reading them, used Pebbles' own lawyers during negotiations, and received just 56 cents per album sold, split 3 ways. TLC sued in 1996 to escape. They succeeded, but had to pay Pebbles $3 million to buy back their own name. $1 million per letter. T-Boz confirmed it years later on The Breakfast Club. The experience nearly destroyed them. Left Eye developed severe substance abuse issues. The group renegotiated with LaFace Records, continued their career, but the financial damage was irreversible. Pebbles sued VH1 in 2014 for $40 million over their biopic, claiming defamation. The case settled in 2020. Number 8, Humble, PIE, Dee Anthony. Steve Marriott left Small Faces and formed Humble Pie with Peter Frampton in 1969. Manager Dee Anthony pushed them hard into the American market. Their 1971 live album, Performance Rockin' the Fillmore, went gold. They became arena headliners. The money should have been massive. Instead, Marriott was broke, literally stealing food to survive. He confronted Anthony about the missing millions, suspecting the manager funneled Humble Pie's earnings into promoting Frampton's solo career, specifically Frampton Comes Alive. Anthony arranged a meeting. Location, the Ravenite Social Club in Little Italy, New York. Present, John Gotti, Paul Castellano, Frank Locascio, all members of the Gambino crime family. Marriott's widow later confirmed Anthony had connections to the Genovese family as well. The message was clear. Drop. Marriott never saw his money. He was informed he owed over $100,000 in back taxes despite years of sold-out tours. He moved to California, redeemed bottles for spare change, formed pub bands back in England. Humble Pie drummer Jerry Shirley called Anthony's contract a nightmare that had them truly locked up. Marriott died in 1991, age 44, in a house fire. He died broke, addicted, broken by the industry that should have made him a millionaire. 7. Small Faces, Don Arden. Don Arden earned his nickname the Al Capone of pop for good reason. He threatened people. He dangled rival manager Robert Stigwood out a fourth-floor window by his ankles when Stigwood tried to poach Small Faces. He put out a lit cigar on another manager's forehead. When his own daughter Sharon took Ozzy Osbourne as a client, Arden sicked his attack dogs on her. She was pregnant. She miscarried. Small Faces were massive in mid-1960s Britain, rivaling The Who and the Kinks. 4 top 10 hits, sold-out tours, constant radio play. Their 1968 concept album, Ogden's Nut Gone Flake, hit number 1. Arden paid them $20 per week plus clothing allowance. That's around $50 in 1960s money. Meanwhile, he spent $12,000 getting their debut single, What You Gonna Do About It, onto the charts through payola. When the band asked about their royalty earnings, Arden shut them down. It took 3 years of legal battles to break free from him. A court finally ruled in 1976 that Arden owed them $12,000 in unpaid royalties. He made one payment, then skipped town. Steve Marriott, who wrote most of their hits, never recovered financially. 2 band members died before receiving their full compensation. Arden died in 2007, age 81, unpunished and wealthy. Number 6. MOBY GRAPE, Matthew Katz. MOBY GRAPE's 1967 debut album is considered one of the greatest rock debuts of all time. 5 musicians who could all write, sing, and play. 7 major labels competed to sign them. Columbia won. The band were touted as the Bay Area's answer to the Beatles, Stones, and Byrds combined. Manager Matthew Katz destroyed them before they even started. October 1966, he forced the band to sign over ownership of their name and all publishing rights, or he'd block their Columbia deal. They signed. They were young, broke, and trusted him. Katz fired them in 1967. Then he sued them for using their own name. The lawsuits continued for 40 years. 8 lawsuits, 5 appeals, countless motions. The band couldn't release music, couldn't tour as MOBY GRAPE, received 0 royalties from their albums. They had to perform under fake names. Mosley Grape, Legendary Grape, The Melvilles. Guitarist Skip Spence descended into schizophrenia. Bassist Bob Mosley developed mental illness, became homeless. The band recorded under false names, released albums that were immediately withdrawn when Katz's lawyers threatened more lawsuits. They finally won back their name in 2005. By then, Skip Spence was dead. The band's prime was 35 years gone. One album, a lifetime of legal hell. Let's pause here. We're halfway through. The Move lost all their royalties. TLC went bankrupt despite a Diamond album, and Humble Pie's Steve Marriott got threatened by the mob. Drop a comment. Which manager is the worst so far? It only gets darker from here. Hit the like button if you knew even 3 of these stories. The next 5 managers didn't just ruin careers. Some of them destroyed entire legacies. Let's keep going. Number 5. Black Sabbath, Patrick Meehan. Black Sabbath's 1975 album, Sabotage, got its title because the band felt sabotaged by everyone around them, specifically their manager, Patrick Meehan. They were in the studio trying to record, and lawyers kept showing up to serve them writs and subpoenas. Despite 4 consecutive albums in the US Top 20 and sold-out worldwide tours, Sabbath were broke. They couldn't understand why. When they confronted Meehan about missing money, he responded with lawsuits. The litigation lasted from 1974 through 1975, consuming everything. Drummer Bill Ward said, "It was probably the only album ever made with lawyers in the studio." Ozzy Osbourne wrote the furious lyrics to The Writ himself, rare for him, channeling all his rage at Meehan. Are you Satan? Are you man? The legal battles drained them financially and emotionally. They eventually broke free from Meehan, but paid him a massive settlement. Between the payout and legal fees, there was almost nothing left from their years of success. Stress nearly destroyed the band. Meehan had been filtering royalties to himself instead of the band, forcing them into tours when they were exhausted, threatening to freeze their assets. Despite creating some of the greatest heavy metal albums ever made, Sabbath barely survived their own manager. Number 4. The Beatles, Alan Klein. When Brian Epstein died in 1967, the Beatles desperately needed management. John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr chose Alan Klein. Paul McCartney wanted his father-in-law, Lee Eastman. The split vote destroyed the band. Klein took over Apple Corps in February 1969. Within months, Paul sued to dissolve the Beatles, specifically to escape Klein. The lawsuit forced a court-appointed receiver to manage their affairs, effectively ending the band in December 1970. Mick Jagger had warned them. The Rolling Stones had fired Klein after he'd swindled them. Lennon later admitted Paul's suspicions were right, but by then, it was too late. Klein was taking 20% of the Beatles' entire royalties, not just new earnings. He'd inserted himself into deals, siphoned money, created legal tangles. London Sunday Times profile in 1969 revealed Klein had been involved in 40 lawsuits, and the SEC was investigating him. The Beatles hired him anyway. The legal battles between the individual Beatles and Klein lasted until 1977. In 1979, Klein was convicted of tax evasion for failing to report income from promotional Beatles records and served 2 months in prison. John Lennon wrote Steel and Glass about him in 1974. The Beatles never reunited. Klein's management fractured the greatest band in history beyond repair.
It's such a feeling that I love. I got
Number 3. The Rolling Stones, Alan Klein.
your friend Jimmy, a man, Jimmy Lou.
Alan Klein managed the Rolling Stones from 1965 to 1970. He helped make them rich. He also pulled off one of the biggest music industry scams in history. Klein negotiated huge advances for the Stones, increasing their income dramatically.
Man, Jimmy Lou, pretty ill.
By 1968, they were guaranteed $2.6 million from Decca, more than the Beatles were making. Everything seemed perfect. Then they discovered what Klein actually owned. Through careful legal maneuvering, Klein had gained control of the North American rights to everything the Stones recorded from 1963 to 1971. Every song, Satisfaction, Paint It Black, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Street Fighting Man, the entire golden era.
We decided that we would have a soda.
Klein's estate still owns those rights today. The Rolling Stones do not own their own 1960s catalog. They receive royalties, sure, but Klein's company ABKCO owns the masters and publishing. It took 17 years of lawsuits before they reached a settlement in the 1980s. Mick Jagger testified in federal court that Klein wanted a hold on us, on our futures. In 1974, a heated argument about money ended with Jagger chasing Klein down a corridor at London's Savoy Hotel, screaming at him. The Stones formed their own label in 1971, ensuring they'd never get swindled again. But their classic catalog, gone forever. Keith Richards called it the price of an education. Number 2. CREEDENCE Clearwater Revival, Saul Zaentz. John Fogerty signed with Fantasy Records as a teenager in the mid-1960s. The contract was terrible. He didn't realize it at the time. By 1969, CREEDENCE Clearwater Revival was the biggest band in America, outselling even the Beatles that year. 7 top 10 singles in just over 2 years. Fogerty made almost nothing. Fantasy owner Saul Zaentz owned everything: the masters, the publishing, the rights. When CCR broke up in 1972, Fogerty tried to escape. Zaentz forced him to forfeit his royalties from all previous songs just to get out of the contract. Then it got worse. In 1985, Fogerty released a solo hit called The Old Man Down the Road. Zaentz sued him, claiming it plagiarized CCR's 1970 song Run Through the Jungle, which Zaentz owned. Fogerty was sued for plagiarizing himself. He had to play both songs on guitar in court to prove they were different. He won in 1988. Zaentz also sued Fogerty for $144 million over the song Vans Kant Dans after the lawsuit, which portrayed Zaentz as a greedy pig. They settled out of court.
You don't have to worry, you have no money.
Fogerty refused to perform CCR songs for years because he didn't want Zaentz profiting. It took until 2023, 50 years later, for Fogerty to finally regain his publishing rights. Number 1. Badfinger, Stan Polley. This is rock's most tragic manager story. Two band members committed suicide because of what their manager did to them. Badfinger were the first signing to the Beatles' Apple label in 1968. Paul McCartney gave them Come and Get It, which hit top 10 worldwide. They wrote Without You, which became a #1 smash for Harry Nilsson, and later Mariah Carey.
You always smile, but in your eyes.
George Harrison produced their album Straight Up. They had 4 consecutive worldwide hits from 1970 to 1972. Manager Stan Polley stole everything. He created a web of shell companies, siphoned their earnings into accounts only he controlled, left them with unpaid bills and mounting debts. Despite selling millions of records, Badfinger members couldn't pay rent. In 1974, Warner Brothers sued Polley and froze Badfinger's assets. The band couldn't record, couldn't tour, couldn't access any money. On April 24, 1975, guitarist and songwriter Pete Ham hanged himself in his garage. He was 27. His suicide note said, "Stan Polley is a soulless bastard." 8 years later, on November 19, 1983, bassist Tom Evans also hanged himself after another financial argument related to Polley's mess. He was 36. Polley was convicted of fraud in 1991, received probation, never paid restitution. He died in 2009, unpunished. 2 brilliant musicians dead, millions stolen, justice never served.